US President Joe Biden has signed up a dozen countries to help challenge Chinese dominance in Asia. During a tour of the continent, he announced the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, saying it would help the country members to grow faster and fairer.
Joe Biden launched the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity with the prime ministers of Japan and India, while 10 other leaders followed the meeting online.
We're writing the new rules for the 21st century economy that are going to help all of our countries' economies grow faster and fair. We'll do that by taking on some of the most acute challenges that drag down growth and by maximizing the potential of our strongest growth engines.
The countries joining the trade initiative include Australia, Brunei, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Thailand. It's part of Washington's efforts to counter China's economic weight in Asia. But it's not a free trade agreement. It doesn't aim to lift customs duties and trade barriers due to U.S. concerns about the outsourcing of jobs. One goal of the framework is to make supply chains more resistant. For example, to secure supplies of computer chips, which are urgently needed in the auto and high-tech industries. Infrastructure is another key element. There is a massive need for new roads, ports, and energy projects in the Indo-Pacific region. The Biden administration does not want to lose out to China's Belt and Road Initiative. In Beijing, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said the IPEF is an attempt to contain China and doomed to failure. Whatever the name of the Regional Cooperation Framework, it should promote free trade instead of engaging in protectionism in disguise. It should contribute to the world economic recovery rather than destabilizing the industrial chain. It should promote open cooperation instead of geopolitical confrontation. The U.S. aims to make the Indo-Pacific countries more attractive as manufacturing hubs. Members of the new group are also concerned about China's increasing assertiveness and welcome the U.S. focusing more attention on the Indo-Pacific region.
Well, let's get more on this and cross to our financial correspondent in New York, Jens Korte. Jens, we heard there that this, crucially, is not a free trade agreement. Why isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, it's not entirely clear what's in it for member countries because they do not get better access to U.S. markets or lower tariffs. On the other side, when those countries are dealing together with all the supply chain issues, I mean, that could be beneficial, at least to the United States and also to some of those countries. Well, if you look at the last attempt of the Trans-Pacific Free Trade Agreement that the U.S. bailed out in 2017, I mean, there had been some criticism from both sides of the political aisles here in the United States. And now with this very narrow advantage that the Democratic Party has in Congress, it isn't really clear if there would have been any chance to get a new free trade agreement done.
This partnership, a large part of it is about competing with China, but actually markets have been boosted by talk of President Biden potentially lifting some tariffs on Chinese goods, Trump-era tariffs, I suppose. What's the president thought to be planning?
Yeah, well, I mean, the U.S. president did mention that once he returns to the United States, he wants to discuss this topic with his Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen. Well, if you look at what is happening here in the United States with all this inflationary pressure, the approval ratings of the president are extremely low. So, as I mentioned, it is mostly because of inflation. And if you look at the tariffs that got imposed under U.S. President Donald Trump, what mostly happened is it had hardly any effect on imports from China, but it did have a negative impact on prices paid by U.S. consumers and U.S. corporations. So that is the main reason why Joe Biden is thinking about dropping those tariffs to lower prices.
Jens Korte in New York for us. Thank you.